The title of toughest ship can be thrown around quite a lot in the Star Trek universe. Perhaps we're talking about the USS Defiant, or even the Sovereign-class USS Enterprise-E. Either way, today we'll be talking about the toughest, the fastest, the most powerful Starfleet ship ever put into service. Welcome to Trek Central. I'm your host, Ensign Adam, and let's get right into it. In this Star Trek ship breakdown, we'll be looking at the Inquiry-class starship. Yes, this is the ship seen in Star Trek Picard's Season 1 finale, with the USS Zheng-He, commanded by the man himself, Captain William T. Riker. If you want to keep up to date with all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates from the Star Trek universe. So, let's get down to the basics, shall we? The Inquiry-class starship was active during the end of the 24th century, in the service of Starfleet, the United Federation of Planets. At the very tail end of the 24th century, Starfleet's mission had altered drastically from what it was most well known for. From 2381 onward, Starfleet's primary mission changed from exploration to the relocation of the Romulan people from their dying sun. After the destruction of the Utopia Planitia shipyards in 2385 by rogue synthetics, Starfleet would abandon its relocation mission and return to its previous mission, albeit with a focus on more defensiveness, for obvious reasons. The destruction of the Utopia Planitia shipyards and the heavy loss of resources caused critical damage to Starfleet's infrastructure in terms of starship production and variation. The Inquiry-class starship comes to a length of 630.94 meters, and its design features the common Starfleet layout: saucer section, secondary hull, 2 warp nacelles. The Inquiry's nacelles come in multiple variations, which we'll talk about later on. The saucer section of the Inquiry has a forward-facing shuttle and cargo bay for easy deployment of shuttles, something that would aid in its many missions of exploring the final frontier. Another interesting deviation from common Starfleet ship design was its deflector, which was positioned behind a grid-like hull under the saucer section. Whether this grille was to protect the deflector from enemies or offered some technological advantage is unknown, though we could theorize that this was actually designed to offer more protection, given Captain Riker's statement about how tough the Inquiry class was, specifically the USS Zheng-He. The bridge was of common Starfleet design, but featured a solitary command chair in the center, and standing terminals in positions usually reserved for that of helm and navigation. The bridge was a computerized transparent window view screen, compared to a normal view screen. Presumably, as the ship was Starfleet's toughest ship class at the time, the ship could be equipped with an impressive complement of armaments. We're presuming phaser banks, photon, and quantum torpedoes, though this has not been seen, due to not having seen the ship itself in combat yet. The ship would also presumably be equipped with the best Federation ship technology had to offer at the time, from ablative armor which dissipates energy impacts from directed energy weapon fire, to efficient warp cores, allowing the ship to reach much higher warp speeds. While the Inquiry-class's appearance in Star Trek Picard may look like all the ships are the same, sparking many comments online, the ships in the season finale are actually different variations of each other. Let's take a look into more detail there, right now. The 3 main variants of the Inquiry class are the Varian Fry, the Toussaint, and the Maui. As we can see from the examples on screen right now, each design variant only has minor differences in the placement of the starship's nacelles and other minor details. For example, the USS Zheng-He is the Toussaint variant of the Inquiry class, while the other ships appearing in Riker's fleet are a mixture of all 3, making up a very tough squadron of ships. An entire fleet of Inquiry-class starships arrived at the planet of Guellion IV, also known as Copernicus, in 2399, answering the distress call of retired Starfleet Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, and came into contact with the Tal Shiar fleet, who were aiming to wipe out a colony of synthetics on the planet's surface. The Federation fleet was under the command of Acting-Captain William T.Riker, who came out of retirement due to being an active reserve to command the flagship of the fleet, the USS Zheng-He. The Zheng-He was named after a famous Chinese fleet admiral and explorer. The Tal Shiar fleet was under the command of General O, who had previously been an undercover operative within Starfleet, serving as Director of Starfleet Security since at least the year 2390. This was similar to Section 31 having an undercover operative as chairman of the Tal Shiar during the Dominion War. Tensions may have flared, but conflict in the form of an all-out battle was avoided, and both the Tal Shiar fleet and the Federation fleet were able to avoid conflict and retreated to their respective territory, leaving Guellion IV as a protectorate under the United Federation of Planets. As of this standoff engagement, this is the only time an Inquiry-class starship has been seen on screen. Given Star Trek Picard's second season, we'll hopefully see more of this ship, flying around in the Star Trek universe. The Inquiry-class starship was designed by notable Trek ship designer John Eves, who based the design off some earlier designs he created while working on the Star Trek Online game in 2006, the Perpetual Entertainment version, before the license went to Cryptic. The script required a background Starfleet ship for episodes 6 or 7, and required a ship with a large front cargo bay, possibly to house the La Sirena for some reason. Whatever the reason might have been, the script changed, and it was not included in those earlier episodes. The script for the finale required a Starfleet ship, and Eves sent over his designs. The Inquiry class was picked out from the designs, and 2 physical variants were created, and those were given 2 color variations. An alternate design of the Inquiry class, called the Kotso class, was similar to the Inquiry class but had cutouts in the ship's hull, which gave it a unique look. This ship design is also a reuse of an earlier design for Star Trek Online from John Eves, seen in some concept art, alongside the design that would eventually become the Inquiry class. The bridge of the class was actually a set redress of the USS Discovery's bridge, as Jonathan Frakes would have been working on Star Trek Discovery Season 3 at the time of filming for the final episode of Star Trek Picard's first season. Originally, the Inquiry class was identified by Star Trek Picard's Season 1 showrunner, Michael Chabon, as the heavy cruiser Curiosity-class starship, but he later amended the classification to the Inquiry class. While the Zheng-He remained as the Inquiry class, the Curiosity class would be switched to the Federation heavy cruiser USS Ibn Majid, NCC 75710. One of the all-too-common complaints and online opinions about the Inquiry class is that it's essentially a copy-and-paste starship. Well, this is evident in the Star Trek Picard Season 1 finale, when all we see are multiple versions of the Inquiry class. And while, yes, there are other variations of the ship, they're not drastically different enough for us to tell the difference. So why are all these ships the same? Where is the variation that we typically see in Starfleet ships, like in the Dominion War, where multiple starship classes were seen engaging in battle? My personal belief, and you could say this is the lore reason for this as well, is that it goes back to the destruction of the Utopia Planitia fleet yards, which, as stated earlier, crippled the Federation and Starfleet's ability to produce starships in the first place. It makes sense that they would produce one very powerful ship that is extremely easy to create en masse. The uniformity of design is backed up by Starfleet simply opting to produce new ships in the quickest possible time. Building multiple different classes would have likely slowed down production, but making one ship that is tough and does the job wherever you send it would have solved the problem of firepower and enforcing protection where needed, while still also being versatile enough to do the other stuff. Another theory of why there are so many Inquiry-class ships comes down to Starfleet wanting a quick reaction force to threats, and these ships do not represent the actual state of Starfleet during 2399. Think about it. When we look back at having to assemble fleets in the Star Trek universe, it is not a quick process. Even Picard himself knows this when he had to assemble a fleet during the Next Generation episode Redemption Part 2. I'm sure I wasn't the only person feeling sorry for Picard having to haul old ships out of dry dock to ensure his fleet was big enough.
Captain's log, stardate 45021.3. Convincing Starfleet Command to establish a blockade was relatively painless. Implementing that plan is proving more troublesome.
Starfleet is stretched pretty thin across this quadrant. There are only about 12 ships within a day's travel of this position.
The only other ships available are either in space dock for repairs or still under construction. Most of them don't even have full crews yet.
We could probably scare up 7, maybe 8 more ships.
I just hope they remember to change the filters in the air conditioning systems. Ugh. the core of Starfleet is likely off doing what it is Starfleet is known for: science, exploration, and diplomacy. Yes, this is a fleet of ships that are minimally crewed, highly automated, and loaded with as much firepower as they could fit on the space frame. Think an angry swarm of Defiants, but with huge upgrades and mass-produced. Lest we forget, the Defiant originally resembled what became the Nova class, which bears a weird resemblance to the Inquiry if you think about it. Coincidence? Who knows? Essentially, the fleet that responded to Admiral Picard's distress call at Guellion IV was a Starfleet Quick Reaction Force, or Squadron, as Admiral Clancy put it, and not the current state of the Federation Starfleet. It certainly gives some food for thought on the matter. With Star Trek Picard Season 2 on the distant horizon, hopefully we'll be able to explore more of the Federation Starfleet, but also see more of the Inquiry-class starship in action. Or who knows, maybe Q will decide he doesn't like the look of everything and just randomly sub in a whole bunch of other space frames in there. You never know what he's going to do at the end of the day, do you? What do you think of the Inquiry-class starship? Do you think it sits in the Star Trek starship ranks as one of the toughest? Is it just a stopgap? Let us know in the comments below, because as always, if you're talking Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. If you want to keep up to date with all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then as I said, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. And of course, follow us on social media or join our community's Discord server. For now, ladies and gents, I've been Ensign Adam. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends.